I'm sorry. Now we're in progress.
Now,
Hi,
okay.
Robert. How are you?
Hello, Pamela, Dr. Mangranti. uh, I wanted to respond to that first question and appreciate your sharing about the your relationship with the Ascended Masters focused on freedom. Uh, I'm very much concerned about freedom myself, and I was so elated by the election process and what's happened since then. Uh, but that's like a secondary, really, to the focus of freedom of one's soul. But it's not secondary, really, if you don't have that first part of freedom, political freedom. It very much hampers everything else, particularly even insights or desires to look beyond physical freedom to spiritual release and freedom. So I'm so glad that I'm part of that and doing my best to support that. Uh,
How
you
did
have
you?
you
Yeah, go ahead.
okay?
Well, I mean, the main thing is, so how do you feel? What brought you to where you are? Do you want to give a little history so people know what was your background? How did you get to
Yeah,
these thoughts and this place and time?
yes, that's the first question. I spent a little bit of time focusing on that. I've got a pretty long history of. I finished college and then I struck off into the world, to get my fortune and whatever. I didn't have a real spiritual focus at that time, so I went to I went to college and then I went to a military school, and then I just decided I wanted to just get it over with, so I joined the army. I joined the army, and I was fortunately focused in located in Hawaii. Hawaii is like a spiritual crossroads of many religions because it's a physical crossroad for many cultures that come through there. And so I found, or Buddhism found me, and I really took to it. And I had close friends, and we really enjoyed uh, the sitting practice every week. And that was my first beginning of it. And that very rigorous training, and it was a good background for things later on, of course. And then I came back to the States, or the rest of the States, and I got into yoga. Yoga, I was opening up a restaurant in Woodstock, New York, and I needed help. And so there's this uh, Yogi Bhajan people who were coming through looking for a place to set up also. So we kind of camped together. And I had the building and the restaurant vision, and they had the personnel and the training behind macrobiotics. And so we opened a macrobiotic restaurant. It was called 5 Rock City Road, which was the address also. But
Okay.
anyway, uh, we also taught yoga there in the mornings. We'd put the furniture aside, and we drew in people to practice yoga, and then put set the tables back up for lunch. And then later on, I traveled to India and to refine my yoga practice and study, and it just amplified into all incredible experience there. It was so different from the Western culture that if you didn't have any agenda in mind, even you would just, if you're open at all, you would just absorb such a different perspective and such a useful way to develop and mature your own spiritual aspirations, because there's many people there that are just they drop out and become an uh, I forget the word now, but they just go around from ashram to ashram, studying and learning what they can accomplish and what they can absorb about different spiritual perspectives. And there's so many there. And so I got into that routine also. I went traveling to various ashrams, and it was quite a good education, and it didn't cost very much. And so then I came back, and
How long were you there?
about a year and a half.
And how old were you? 20s?
Um, um, yeah, late 20s, I think, about the late 20s, somewhere in there. And and then I came back and um, kind of got away from yoga and meditation. I wanted to break anyway. It's probably a gestation period for me. But anyway, I got married and we adopted a little boy.
Hmm.
And I started a solar company. I built, uh, I installed solar water heaters, and yeah, I built additions, southern exposure additions onto people's houses that would help heat the house when the sun was shining. But anyway, a change of political administrations, all the uh, solar tax credits evaporated, so I lost my phone stopped ringing. But anyway, um, I I'm at a loss.
Oh, okay. Well, I just want to know, I want to know how you got to where you are with you're
Well,
on a
that's
path.
part of the. I was trying to connect to that. I sometimes you don't know. You don't know whether you're on the right path or not, and there's not a coach standing by to say, okay, turn left here, and that's a good thing. It's beautiful because otherwise you lose your guidance of your self guidance, and so I suppose they say in the scripture that he only learns by what he suffered. And since I uh, yogis don't talk about that very much, but other disciplines do, and I found it to be very relevant for me now. Not that it's relevant for anyone else, because that's another beautiful thing about freedom. It's individuality. Everybody has their own path, and they get misguided, or someone would like to be their boss or show them how to do things when they should be trying to figure it out for themselves. That's my philosophy, that we each have a destiny to fulfill and a way to get to that destiny. And that way is the way that is for us. It's designed for us before we were born. And that's my understanding. And so there's so many Archangel Michael is so useful because he helps us and protects us from all the distractions and all the people who want to take us on their trip and don't allow us that freedom then to discover our own trip. And when we don't do that, we lose something that has to be regained later on. You were saying?
A couple of questions I have. For you mentioned Archangel Michael. That's wonderful. What do you mean? Some people might not know what you mean.
Well, there's I know one thing that most people know is that there's a lot of deception and corruption in the world. That's the reason there's language called the broken world that we live in. And it's broken because people have deviated from the spiritual path in their own personal journey. And and that word journey, I think it was Lindell or somebody said, it's not a journey if you don't know the meaning. If you don't understand the meaning of the journey. So otherwise, you're just going along like a sheep led by the other sheep or whatever. Anyway, I forgot where I was.
So my question then, what is the journey? You're saying a master said that you have to know what the journey is. How do you know? I also want to know what happened if this is too much for you. What happened to your wife and child? But
Oh,
also the
we
journey.
got divorced. We
Oh,
got
okay,
divorced after
okay.
7 years, which is a critical point.
Hmm.
And it's a sad story because she really didn't like me very much. It was
Oh,
mostly a youthful thing of lust. Lust that leads
oh,
people into
okay.
marriage, and
Yeah,
it's not. We don't even understand what love really is, what true
hmm,
love really is. And
yeah,
I'm just learning about it myself
yeah.
after these years. It's a funny thing, and we're not much encouraged to explore anything beyond lust because lust drives so much of what's going on in the broken world. And
Hmm.
so
Wow.
you learn through the things you suffer, and that's what's been my experience all along. Now
Mhm.
is that it's only after suffering and banging your head against the wall that you open your eyes and you begin to realize things and realize who you are and how you need to honor how you approach the world and not how somebody else's idea of how you should approach the world. And that way you become knowledgeable about yourself, which is a really a booster. And I know for myself, when I begin to be comfortable with myself and to understand myself, a lot of people don't understand that or understand your path or what you're after, but you do. And your understanding increases, and it makes you more comfortable in the world. And that is a magic that is you can't teach it. You have to gain it from your own suffering. And I'm really glad to have that knowledge about myself now and to share that with other people if when the time is appropriate.
Do you want to share? You could do it briefly or not. Do you want to share about your suffering, some of the sufferings you've had to go through?
Oh well, you meet a lady, you meet a man, you meet a mate. That
Hmm.
someone you might think would be that'd be a good mate for me,
Hmm.
or let's just see what happens.
Hmm.
But then you things happen, and one goes one way, one goes the other way, and there's that loss, and then there's that realization about attachment and surrender. There's profound lessons in attachment and surrender that we don't get in our society. You know, I don't know of any society, maybe some in the Hindu society, but anyway, we don't we aren't schooled in surrender. We're not
Hmm.
schooled in the meaning of suffering. Most suffering is a teaching, and we should. And the scriptures tells us we should celebrate our suffering because there's a teaching going on.
Hmm.
And when you realize there's a teaching going on, you pay a different kind of attention to the suffering and to your relating to it. And that is critical to me because Jesus and other teachers are setting you up for your next learning session. Bang, there it is. Oh, you know, and so, and we should be thankful for those because in the end, you realize, well, that maybe that lady wasn't right for me anyway, or that person or that man wasn't right for me, or
Hmm.
it's time to move on, or
Hmm.
whatever. But it's we know we get attached, we hang on to things that we should let go of, and that's the real critical part about surrender, just surrendering, because the downside of freedom is that we don't have a master. We don't have anybody that's controlled us because we're free. But that's not the case. The case is that you're free to follow the truth. But to figure out what the truth is a challenge. It's a very difficult thing to know because people are always trying to corrupt the idea of truth to develop their own profit or whatever. Uh, and so forgiveness and truth and surrender are three key pieces that you can work on anytime, anywhere, and you don't have to spend years in a group to start working on yourself. It's basically working on cultivating your own awareness of yourself, self understanding. That's critical, and then you need some guidance, and who you choose for your guidance is very critical because we you and I have teachers that are vital and they're alive and um, they relate to us in constructive ways that aren't manipulative. They are that are positive for us to grow, and they know where we need to grow better than we do, and that's part of surrender, surrendering to a higher understanding. of what reality is and what our path is and what our duty is. And so those three simple words, forgiveness and surrender, are really keys. And you don't need a guru or a teacher to teach you those things. They show up in your daily life, and they are there for you. And that's the essence of what I've learned thus far in my journey. And it's quite challenged because I was a master freedom person and full of rebellion and full of I'm going to go it my way and do it my way.
Mhm.
And that's really that can be a really a dead end road. And you want to be very careful not to get too heavy into the independence and the freedom thing, to not be able to listen to true guidance and the true word. It's tricky to discriminate, and that's all part of the challenge and the teaching is to discriminate and find the victory. And you'll know when you find the victory. There's nobody who needs to tell you. You know it. You know it when it happens.
You, gosh, there's so much wisdom coming out of you. Thank you. You mentioned something, a key. The key that you said was surrender, and but you said you had a rebellious part of yourself, and so freedom. I'm sorry, it was freedom, and you said you had this rebellious part, so people could take the freedom to do what I want when I want, and it could go in a selfish way. You're talking about a higher freedom that's selfless, that's giving and kind and loving. That's very nice.
Well, thank you. It's my Lord Maitreya is a loving kindness teacher. Jesus is teacher and our teacher, and he has incredibly enlightening perspectives on how to how we can penetrate through our resistance and our selfish freedom.
Do you have any tools that you could leave the people with?
Um, well, the tools are so unique and individual because we're unique and individual, and we need to celebrate that uniqueness and individuality by searching around and choosing things. Now, as a general um, uh, treasure house is the Summit University's bookstore.
Mhm.
It's incredibly complex, and there's so much there. I guess there should be a guide, you know, available for beginners and medium and
Mm.
advanced
Mm.
people because there's so much. It's so vast and profound, and it's not of this world. It's from a higher world,
Mhm.
and it's hard to use that kind of language because people think you're kind of like crazy. And that's another thing. You have to be strong in your commitment to the masters and commitment to your path, because everything is designed for you not to be on that path and not to grow in that way. And so you have to really buckle down and decide this is what you want to do, and this is real for me, and stick with it because it's amazing the challenges you'll attract, which is part of the teachings.
Thank you for that. I think it sounds like we're wrapping up a little bit. I would like to know, with what you're just saying there, now I'm forgetting what I was going to say. What's the point of it? You make yourself a better person. What's your point in doing all of this?
Yeah, well,
Why?
that's the real point of this interview, and the point of my life and your life is what's the point of our life? What are we up to here? Why are we? Or is this an accident? A lot of people are running around. Oh, it's an accident. Well, what a dumb thing that is. But anyway, the accident is that we are here. This is a schoolroom. This planet is a schoolroom, and we either pass or fail every day. We get tested, and this is not a small thing at all. It's our grand approach to immortal life, and we have these tests, and we aren't allowed to go higher until we clean up our act, until we lose some of the attachments and on negative things that we acquire living here on planet Earth. And so it's all a class, and classmates are wonderful. They help you out. They help a lot. That's the reason individuals, people who don't relate to a group, are kind of like uh, re- I won't say retarded, but they're retarding their development. They're holding themselves back because we learn from one another, and we don't realize we are learning from one another oftentimes, but we are. And particularly for people who have a similar understanding and background, like the background of the Summit Lighthouse provides. It gives you the background, and then you still have that range of freedom of where to go and what to do. And there's always going to be a teacher there somewhere to help you. And prayer life is the other very important thing. We have to learn to pray and meditate. There's not much words about meditation in that teaching with the Ascended Masters. There's very little. And there's a lot of meditation words around. There's a lot of teachers of meditation. So that may be one reason there's not. They don't include much. But it's interesting. In many of the discourses, meditation is mentioned, and it's mentioned in a good way. It says, after you finish your meditation, this and this and this, or whatever. And so I have a strong background in meditation, and so I know when I don't meditate, my shoulders creep up and
Mm,
tense up,
mm.
and when I meditate, I get more relaxed, and I'm able to perceive a different reality. You're able to see you're just it's just so different. And the more you meditate and the more you study the master's teachings, the more difference is going to be between this world and a better world, the better world we're headed for, and we want to experience, because there's a lot more joy and happiness and victory in that lifestyle than just going along in this world.
That's you're giving a there's so much richness in what you're sharing. Just I'm just going to ask you, I think this will be my last question. What do you most, maybe you've said it already, but it's a chance to maybe reiterate if you did, what do you most want the people to know? What would be most helpful?
Hang on. Hang on and find your joy, whatever it is.
Hmm.
Find your joy, because
Hmm.
it'll fade, and it'll disappear, and it won't be very interesting. Then you find your next joy, and finally you will realize that many of your joys are lust, and they're dysfunctional, and they're not your friend. And so, but if you don't at least approach them and think about them, they will plague you and not leave you, and so it'll hold you back from it'll be a big weight on your back, and you don't want that weight. You want to be light. You want to move forward in the light. And so you have to somehow come to terms with all the traps that are here, the traps of lust, the traps of accumulation, the traps of you name it, just about everything, wardrobe, travel, all those things. You have to get enough of it so that you're not lusting after it. You're not cramping yourself because you can't do this, or you can't do this, or this is what I'm going to do. But in the end, it's empty. The Zen people talk about the emptiness of the world. Things are empty, and when you get truly appreciating of emptiness, you are well on your way.
Oh my, I just want to thank you. And I just want to share just briefly. When I came into a desire for God, I had, it wasn't great. I had everything I wanted. I didn't want a lot, a car, a boyfriend, a this or that. And it was totally empty. And that's when I felt it's just exactly what you said.
that's
That's when the
that's
search began.
yeah, that's the destiny of most experience in this world, is just emptiness.
Hmm.
It's just empty, and that's hard to get over. You got to experience it yourself, and that's why everybody has a different path. and it's difficult to direct somebody on a path when they have their own path. And so it's just it's such a beauty. It's such a beautiful thing. I'm so pleased that I know and have this. And I look out into the world and people who don't have this kind of understanding. I'm saying, man, I'm glad I'm not there. I'm glad I have the masters. I'm glad I have the teachings, Mother Mary, Jesus. I'm so glad. And so I feel like I'm at home in that respect. And most of the people I know and see on the street and in what I do is it's empty. It's just empty.
Yeah, I, absolutely. Um, Josh, I don't want to let you go here. I've really enjoyed this. Um, but God bless you on your path, and I just thank you very much.
Well,
Thank you.
thank you, Pamela. It's a really good function. I encourage you to pursue this. And I'm looking forward to some other interviews with people you're going to choose to be interviewed. And that's a good learning experience that you're developing there. So I'm any way I can help you, please just let me know.
Thank you.